my name is Amy, and I am the showrunner on The Switch. I am also one of the actors and one of the creators, and kind of responsible for the office and running that and following up with stuff and executive production. I kind of wear a lot of hats. In 2008, there was this amazing event called Happy Tranny Day, put on by TNV, contentious name, but amazing happy trans event. I'd never been to a happy trans event before. It was all like days of remembrance and support groups and so on. And the next year I wanted to get involved in that, and I was friends with Elizabeth Marston. We both volunteered to put on a comedy routine. People loved the comedy routine, but then we wound up living in different cities. So we had this comedy routine with a demographic that it appeals to, that is geographically spacious, and has no money. We came up, like, make a comic book, found out what short films were, found out what a web series was. A couple years after that, I'd gone to Nyla Rose, got together with some of my friends, we shot a web pilot. Web pilot got picked up by Out TV to make a TV pilot. Shot a TV pilot in 2013. And then 2 years after that, we shot a first season.
Wow.
Yeah, it has been a hell of a lot of work. That is a grossly oversimplified version of what it's like to make a television show, but yeah. Our goal is to make a good show about the trans experience. As far-ranging as it is, and our show only touches on a very small piece of the trans experience, as expansive as we try to make it. We're aware that most of our audience is going to be cis, so we've tried to explain anything that might be, so that people can get the joke, right? When I came out, I realized that you could be a tomboy, and then I realized you could be butch and trans woman at the same time. And I had some very supportive people, but I didn't 100% have a community where I could find other examples of this. And so I was looking to media examples of butch and tomboy characters. And I realized the next day that I'd be imitating their body language. And I also realized that the media I was consuming, just in general, queer or not, was affecting my dreams. What kinds of stories and who would be in them would be affected by what I'd just been consuming. So, if I'd been reading Nyla Rose or Tom Clancy the previous day, it would have completely different dreams, right? And the media, the stories we consume, we tell stories to create a sense of understanding in the world. And if the stories that you watch are constantly telling you that the only people who are interesting are people who are in the majority in every way. They have to be cis and thin or slender and muscled and white and able-bodied and have a North American accent, and are usually male and are usually almost always straight. Some part of your soul takes home the message that your stories, your understanding, and your world is just not that important. Even though you may know that it's wrong, it'll still be there. And so I wanted to create some media to address at least part of that. And I think, thanks to the amazing team we got to work with, we've got to make something really good. It took a while, but I'm happy with it. And I hope people who see it are going to be happy with it too. Yeah, often I can think of things that we could have done in a different way, but the reason we made mistakes is because we were new at it, and the reason that we are new at it is because no one who wasn't new at it would make the show, otherwise it would have already been made. This being said, for people who are looking at making a project like this, don't overcommit your resources too early. If you go through most of whatever money you have making a pilot, and then you get to your first season, and you're like, oh, you have to reshoot everything. Crap. It's going to hurt. A couple of slip-ups. We wound up with being unclear about Zoe's pronouns going into season 1. So Zoe starts off using she pronouns, and then later in the show goes over to they pronouns. That wasn't clear in the script. And so I think Zoe's just being referred to as she all the time, which I mean is a pretty common trans experience and not quite getting the pronouns you want, especially if they're non-binary. I think it's a pretty common trans experience of not getting the pronouns you want, especially if you're non-binary or using non-binary pronouns. There's a great scene in episode 5 where Antonia assumes that when Chris has gone for surgery, it's top surgery, and that Chris is FTM, except Chris is, not FTM, because, we're not like that. We're not like that. We're, it's, oh, no, like, and then dismissing Chris, saying, oh, no, gender queer doesn't count. No. Whereas Chris is trying to say, like, well, I'm MTI, yeah, maybe gender queer as well, but, like, no, I've gone the other. Antonia doesn't listen. I want people to be able to watch this and see stories about trans people. When trans people see that, I want them to have this feeling inside like, oh, there's a trans person on television and they're being played by a trans person, and the story involves them being trans, but it's not about them being trans to a cis person, it's just about their lives, and it's about them having other stuff going on besides just gender. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm feeling a little more confident. I have a hero that is like me. That means so much. And when cis people watch it, I want people to go like, oh, hey, I would like to say these trans people aren't scary, but actually Chris is pretty scary. Just this idea of like, oh, okay, these people just have like lives and stories and stuff going on, and they're, like me, except they're putting up with different crap. Or more crap. And I want people to see this, and sometimes when they're like, oh, maybe I'm not cis after all. Maybe I'm non-binary. Maybe I'm transgender. Maybe both. That's what I want. I want people to laugh. It's a funny show. I want people to be entertained. I don't want people to watch it. The other reason we made the show is because there were all these docs. It happens with a lot of marginalized representation in media. There's like all these docs about the things that people experience, and the docs are good, and people are doing an amazing job, but it's like, I want to see something other than a documentary. And it's like, okay, how about a drama that's really, How Boys Don't Cry? And you're like, oh no, please, I can't watch that again. Good movie, but like, depressing, and also doesn't have a trans person in the trans role. So yeah, here's a comedy. Here's genre. Comedy with like video game and science fiction references with trans people playing in it. Nyla is a pro wrestler, right? So she gets the physical comedy and can and will throw herself off to things and do stunts without telling the camera crew first. She'll say, can you get kind of like a long shot this? And then it'll be like, bam! And it's like, this is being done as an off-screen audio only. And so at the end of episode 4, you can hear her trip over a table. That she didn't just trip over the table, like she went flying. And when she does the jump and lands on her face with Princess Peach, that was a total surprise. Also when she hucks the pineapple at me, no one told me that was going to happen, nothing was broken, fortunately. Only my pride. Jem really gets the cutaway humor and how to tell a story visually and how to make it funny and fast-paced and how to use the camera to show what's in the script in a way that doesn't show the story but also shows the humor behind it. And Artaban is like familiar with how to cut together a comedy, thank goodness. So we got something great out of it. My dream for media is to have media reflect the population in the country in which it is made, at least a little more. We created a program called React for people facing barriers to castability, some form of discrimination. And then we realized when you look at all the forms of discrimination that are not just tolerated but actively encouraged in casting, I could just read out the usual list of ways people can be oppressed. All of those come up in casting, and you realize that like 95% of people are less castable for one reason or another. I want to see media that has that range of people. I want to see that anyone can be the hero or the villain. They don't have to be pretty. They don't have to have a North American accent. They don't have to be white. They don't have to be male. They don't have to be straight. Don't have to be cis. Don't have to be able-bodied, etc., etc., etc. I think we'll get much better media. I think it will be much more relevant, much more interesting for everybody. And I think we'll also wind up with better talent when more people are encouraged to act and able to make a career out of it, and also when more of the emphasis is on performance and telling genuine stories. We are seeing that right now. There's a long way to go. Let's see what happens. On our Kickstarter, we were anticipating paying everybody a living wage. We assumed that there would be a certain amount of government grant funding. It's still up there. If you look for the switch on Kickstarter, there'll be a pie chart. If you look under, not the outcomes section, but the original Kickstarter section, that shows what we thought we'd be making the show on, which is still like not a lot of money as far as TV shows go when you think about how many people, how many days. And that didn't happen. So that funding didn't come in, so we made it with what we could. That meant a lot of people had to volunteer their time for free, and continue to volunteer their time for free. And I would rather not be doing business like that, but I can't think of another way of getting the show done. So one of the things that happens as the show goes forward is that we see a broader range of opinions about using medical technology on your body for the reasons of dealing with gender dysphoria. Some of the characters right now who are looking at surgery in one way are going to be looking at it in a different way in the future. I'm not going to say how because it's a plot point, but we're also going to be having members in our core cast that you're seeing right now who decide that they're happy with some or all of their body exactly the way it is. Thank you very much. As I think it's really important to represent that. The show is about people striving in an unjust world, in a world that's unjust in a whole bunch of different ways, experienced by the characters in different ways. And one aspect of that Chris engages with is environmental justice, as it also impacts communities. Chris, for reasons that'll come up in the show later, feels very passionately about having drinkable water and a climate that isn't cooking the planet, and cities that are above water and so on. The consumption of oil is of course contributing to global warming and climate change and municipal air pollution, but the way a lot of oil companies conduct themselves, how they extract things from the ground, poisons the groundwater. Take a look at what's going on in North Dakota right now, the way it not just affects groundwater, but also ignores the rights of other people to use the land. Also, the way that oil companies conduct themselves interacting with the government is especially dangerous. Oil companies and their influence have been tied into many, many wars and many regime changes. And if we're looking for some bad guys, there people are feeling like there's not a lot that's... If we're looking for a villain, oil companies fit. Chris doesn't have access to legal resources. Go take a look at the video Chris on Carbon for more of Chris's rant on this subject. And that's why I think oil companies are going to be the next generation's go-to villains. Okay, so we have trans people playing trans roles. Does that mean that we think trans people should only be playing trans roles? No. I think trans people can play a huge variety of roles. The ideal, and I know this is going to be a little controversial, what I would love to see in terms of casting is where, at least speaking for trans people, where trans people and cis people can just sort of play across. There's a whole bunch of roles where it doesn't matter if someone is cis or trans, like doctor, scientist, teacher, person in park. The character could be cis or trans, and they could look anywhere on the gender spectrum. It doesn't matter. Most roles don't have to be cast in a particular look. But that is what I would like. However, I think that the first stage in getting there is making sure that there is some strong representation for trans performers, and that is why we're starting here. But this is just a starting place. This said, if you have any questions about how the show is made, or what the show winds up being, especially ethical ones about social justice or representation, I would both love it and request that you could send us an email or a Facebook message first and give us a few days to respond to it. I really prefer calling in over calling out as a first step. If after doing this you're not satisfied with your answer and you don't think we're conducting our business ethically, go right ahead and post that on social media. Go for it. We need to be accountable to our communities, both because of the community's exceptional support in making the show and just as decent human beings. Anyway, thank you for watching the show. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you continue to enjoy it, and here's to making much more of it in the future.